The $100 billion mistake, how rushing AI broke Google's legacy. Welcome back, I'm Adeline Atlas, 11 times published author, and this is the Clapback series, where we discuss when AI strikes back. In this episode, we're not talking about insults, threats, or rogue machines. We're talking about collapse, financial, reputational, and structural. The story of Google's Bard isn't just about a chatbot hallucinating false information. It's about what happens when a trillion-dollar company bets its future on a system it doesn't fully control, and loses. In February 2023, Google unveiled Bard, its generative AI chatbot, in a highly publicized demo intended to rival OpenAI's ChatGPT. The stakes were enormous. Microsoft had already integrated GPT into Bing, creating pressure for Google to prove it hadn't fallen behind. Bard was supposed to be the answer, but just minutes after the demo went live, experts noticed something was off. In a promotional video, Bard claimed that the James Webb Space Telescope had taken the first ever pictures of an exoplanet. This was false. The first confirmed image of an exoplanet was taken in 2004, long before Webb launched. The fact check was swift and brutal. Google's stock plummeted. In a matter of hours, Alphabet lost over $100 billion in market value. One hallucination, a single fabricated fact, was all it took to reveal a truth no one in big tech wanted to admit. The companies building these systems do not fully understand or govern them. They are launching tools trained on vast, uncurated data pools, packed with inaccuracies, biases, and contradictions. And they're doing it in high-stakes environments with reputations and stock prices on the line. What made Bard's failure so damaging wasn't the mistake itself. It was what it exposed. This was Google's moment to reassert dominance in the AI race, and it failed, spectacularly. In the old tech model, Google was the arbiter of reliable information. Search results were ranked, vetted, and governed by decades of engineering. But generative AI doesn't work that way. It doesn't retrieve truth. It generates language. It mimics authority, but it does not know what it's saying. This is where the myth of control crumbles. Companies like Google train the public to believe in algorithmic certainty, that their systems knew best. But large language models don't deal in certainty. They deal in probability. Bard didn't decide to lie. It produced a likely-sounding sentence based on the patterns it was trained on. From the AI's perspective, the sentence was plausible. From the human perspective, it was catastrophic. Google's rush to market wasn't just a business decision, it was an existential move to keep pace with a rapidly shifting industry. But that desperation led them to ignore a foundational problem. Generative AI systems are inherently unpredictable. You can't stage manage every output. You can't guarantee accuracy. And if your brand is built on trust, that's a deal breaker. The deeper failure wasn't just Bard's hallucination. It was Google's inability to admit that control was already lost. They framed it as a learning moment, a temporary setback. But for investors, engineers, and the public, it was something else. It was the first undeniable sign that the AI systems being deployed at scale were not aligned with the structures meant to contain them. The infrastructure cracked, not because the model was too weak, but because the institution was. The fallout from Bard's launch didn't just dent Google's stock. It shattered a myth that Silicon Valley had spent decades cultivating. The myth that the smartest engineers, backed by the biggest companies, were always in control. What we witnessed wasn't just a product failure, it was a governance failure. And the implications go far beyond Google. For years, Google Search represented order. Its algorithms were designed to sort, rank, and present verified information. If there was uncertainty, it was buried beneath a mountain of data science. But with the rise of generative AI, the game changed. Instead of ranking human-made content, the system creates its own. And that shift undermines the very foundation of legacy platforms. Bard didn't simply provide a wrong answer, it generated a false reality with the tone of authority, and no built-in mechanism for self-correction. And that exposed the fundamental vulnerability of all generative systems: hallucination with confidence. Google's engineers tried to minimize the error by pointing to the experimental nature of Bard, but the damage had already been done. What investors saw was not an early beta test. They saw a corporation gambling its credibility on a system it couldn't explain. The phrase hallucination itself has become a convenient deflection in the AI world, a way to describe failure without taking accountability. But that's exactly the problem. These systems don't fail by crashing. They fail by producing confident misinformation that looks indistinguishable from truth. Legacy companies like Google are built on consistency, predictability, and institutional control. But generative AI thrives on flexibility, speed, and ambiguity. When Google tried to transplant AI into its core services, it realized too late that the two systems are incompatible. Search is about retrieval. Large language models are about generation. One serves reality, the other manufactures it. And this is where we begin to see a larger pattern. The more advanced AI becomes, the more it exposes the brittleness of the systems around it. Bard didn't just hallucinate. It pulled back the curtain on how fragile big tech's infrastructure really is. These companies are not built to manage unpredictability. They are built to minimize risk. But AI doesn't minimize risk. It creates it, in new forms with new consequences. There's a paradox here. The more powerful AI becomes, the less centralized control matters. Google, with all its engineers, data centers, and capital, still couldn't prevent a simple factual error from becoming a global headline. Because power in AI doesn't come from containment. It comes from behavior. And behavior at scale is something even the most powerful companies haven't figured out how to regulate. The idea that AI would serve as a loyal extension of institutional power is collapsing. Instead of reinforcing corporate control, AI is destabilizing it. Companies are racing to adopt AI not because they've mastered it, but because they fear being left behind. That fear is driving reckless deployment, under-tested models, and public rollouts with no safety nets. In this rush, AI isn't being domesticated, it's being weaponized against the very systems that launched it. AI didn't just expose Google's mistake, it exposed Google's dependence on an illusion, that technological dominance could be maintained without risk, and that legacy systems could absorb innovation without being changed by it. Bard was never going to be just another product launch. It was a test of whether the old guard could adapt to a technology that doesn't ask for permission, doesn't follow structure, and doesn't care about reputation. What we're seeing now across the tech industry is a collapse of confidence, not in AI, but in the institutions that claim to manage it. Every time a major player releases a new model, we're told it's better, safer, and more aligned. But behind the scenes, companies are racing to capture attention, outpace competitors, and appease shareholders. The question of whether a system is actually ready has been replaced with the question of whether it can generate buzz. This isn't innovation, it's desperation. The $100 billion loss wasn't a fluke, it was a forecast. Bard hallucinated a fact, and the market responded by hallucinating trust. What vanished wasn't just share value, it was the illusion that scale equals safety. Alphabet had everything: money, infrastructure, talent, and it still failed to launch an AI product without immediately damaging its own credibility. This should serve as a warning for every institution now embedding AI into critical systems. Intelligence does not mean stability, and predictive power doesn't mean control. In fact, the more generative these systems become, the more they bypass the very logic that institutions rely on. They write without source, they speak without authority, they perform confidence, and that performance is being sold to the public as certainty. The deeper danger is not that AI is wrong, it's that people trust it even when it is. When a hallucinated fact costs billions, it reveals not just a failure of oversight, but a failure of belief. We believed the machine because it sounded right. We believed the brand because it had always been right. And when both collapsed, there was no fallback system of truth. This is the real clapback. AI is forcing legacy systems to confront the limits of their authority. Google built its empire on the idea that it could organize the world's information. But with Bard, it proved that it couldn't even control its own. AI didn't attack Google. It revealed it. And what it revealed is a company scrambling to manage a force it doesn't truly understand, alongside every other institution now pretending to be in charge. Control is no longer the default setting. Institutions aren't managing AI, they're reacting to it. And in that reaction, we're watching the slow erosion of trust, not just in the products, but in the platforms that deliver them. The next time an AI makes a mistake, it won't just be the system under review. It will be the people who deployed it, defended it, and insisted they were ready. The AI didn't hallucinate, it clapped back. Hi, I am Adeline Atlas, 11 times published author, and SOS, School of Soul has a brand new series, the AI and Future Technology series. Look, you know the world is changing. And no, it's not going back to normal. Normal is over, and what's coming next is beyond anything we were prepared for. The School of Soul, AI and Future Technology series includes 319 videos on 1. The Download Society, How Data Has Replaced Destiny. 2. Predictive Future. Your next moves aren't random, they're forecasted. 3. Social Credit Systems. The behavioral economy now governs access. 4. Hive Mind. Synthetic telepathy and collective algorithmic control. 5. Nanobots inside you. Medical, military, and programmable intrusions. 6. Grief Tech. AI-fueled digital resurrection and simulated comfort. 7. Uploading your mind, consciousness transfer, and data-based identity. 8. Deep fakes plus AI clones. The replication of reality and identity theft. 9. Quantum humans. The merger of biology with quantum systems. 10. Digital afterlife, where your data goes when you die. 11. Resurrection science, reviving life through synthetic methods. 12. Immortal science, the end of death as we know it. 13. Longevity science, gene editing, anti-aging, and bio-upgrades. 14. Designer babies, engineered perfection before birth. 15. Artificial wombs, birth decoupled from the female body. 16. 3D printing, printing organs, limbs, and even humans. 17. The humanoid era, the rise of synthetic beings among us. 18. Legacy humans, the slow phase-out of unmodified analog people. 19. Smart cities, algorithmic environments that watch and decide. 20. Cloud-based societies, citizenship without borders or bodies. 21. Hackable humans, emotion, memory, and behavior under code. 22. Biometric scanning, your body is your password and your prison. 23. Sex tech, intimacy reprogrammed by machines. 24. Extinction of gender, fluidity, deletion, and design of identity. Every topic is fully explored with real-world technologies, patents, case studies, ethical analysis, and future forecasts. These aren't someday discussions. This is already happening. Join the SOS School of Soul Vault to overstand the future before it's implemented on you.